because we have a meeting this week about how they go forward with that. So that's probably
Well, and I emailed her today, and I wanted to say, just, what is finance stuff?
And my wife
Just talk to me,
week.
because she comes here once, she says,
Good time.
do you, she says, do I need to have a mic or stuff, or can I
Center
come
of the
to
room, it's like, I don't care. I live like this.
Like, you should probably confirm it's finance.
I wouldn't trust anything I said.
That's kind of what I told her. I'm like, really? I could have been working on something from 6 months ago.
I could have been working on something I just made up myself. As I've often said, I would never be a part of any club that I have as a member. There you go.
They're just getting ready for concrete course.
That's the end.
Yeah.
Where's the
Oh, they're actually changed the sidewalk first. Exactly.
This is the first reading. So we made some decisions. Eric, well, can we have some more of that? Each give me 20 rows of topsoil, $2,000 worth of riprap, $25,000 worth of in-kind excavation. I don't mention this. It's a good question. I don't know how to get into your office.
There's a reason for that.
No.
I told Mike.
Yeah.
Swung by there, just kind of looking at where I just had to get back in the roads, parking right in front of it. Yeah.
This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is called to order. May we have roll call, please?
Chairperson Copeland?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Present.
Commissioner Freeman?
Present.
Commissioner Sandberg? Present. Commissioner Lady?
Here.
We will now have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Please rise for the pledge.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our agenda, we have public comment. Please be reminded that items that are discussed during public comment are items that are not on the agenda. And we have a lot of things on the agenda. So please come up if you have a public comment. State your name and address and sign in.
Jay Keeper, 325 South Main.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I was used to watching TV. Last week, I read an article in the Enterprise saying that Jeff Gentry was walking and he found this box of glass that was parted on top of the bolt by Saxon Pryor. And in the Enterprise reported that there were 50 pieces that were recovered. I'd like to know if the 50 pieces were all of them, or are they still missing? That was something that was not in the article, and so I'm here for that tonight. And my next item is, I'd like to ask a question. If you or the city manager has reviewed the contract with the city employees as far as like 48 hours a weekend off, does it specifically say Saturday, Sunday, or does it say 48 hours? Thank you.
Can you answer those, Mike?
The first one's easy to answer, that was all of them, that's all the last blocks. The second one depends on the employees, it's all different per contract.
I thought it was okay, what my concern is with the employees that are involved with the recycling center. What is the verbiage?
Right now it's Monday through Friday.
What?
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday on there. So is there a reason? I know I can't hold you. You're not responsible for this current contract, but do you see plans on changing Monday through Friday on there to 48 hours off in the week and have alternating days so that the recycling center could be open to the public on Saturdays?
We already have provisions for it to be open Saturday mornings.
Oh, up until what?
Noon.
Noon, okay. And so a lot of people have things on their plate to do on there, and by the time they get into town or get to the recycling center, noon is come and gone. All you have are services to provide there, and when you fail to provide services there, I really think that you're missing the boat. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, could you clarify for the public how long it's open on Saturdays through the season? I can't remember that.
8:15 to 12:15
8:15 to 12:15.
And then until August, September?
till the end of October, the last Saturday in October.
Thank you.
And that includes a transfer station.
That is the transfer station, the recycling area. And then November 1st through the end of May, the recycling facility is open for a full 8 hours on Saturdays.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Last call on public comment. Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion by the commission on our consent items? We have 4, or are there any that need to be pulled for discussion?
I will be approve consent items A through D.
Second.
Do we have a motion by Navy and a second by Friedman? Roll call, please.
Chairperson Copeland,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Or
Commissioner Friedman,
4.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Or,
Commissioner Maybe.
yes.
Motion passes. Tonight we have no proclamation, no scheduled public comments. 1 public hearing, and this is the first reading of first reading of the resolution. Resolution number 4801, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, discontinuing and vacating the undeveloped alley adjacent to correctional lot 13-16, all of lots 17-20, and correctional lots 21-23, all in the block G of the Riverside addition to the City of Livingston, Montana. Mr. Carters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the vacation that we've already discussed twice. This is now just a formal process to go through the requirements to formally vacate it. This is the first public hearing. There will be one more reading of this resolution, at which point.
So this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Are there any public comments on resolution number 4801? Any public comment on resolution 4801? This public hearing is closed. Are there any commissioner comments or discussion? Is there a motion on resolution 4801?
I make a motion to approve resolution 4801.
Second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hopwood,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman.
Four.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I missed it. Yes. What did you say?
Against.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Four.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Tonight, we have no ordinances and 12 resolutions. It's a big one. Be reminded of the 4-minute limit for public comment on each resolution. And if you have any questions, please ask. So first resolution tonight is resolution number 4799, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city managers to sign live performance agreements with performing artists for Summerfest 2018. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So there are three Summerfest, two Summerfest resolutions tonight. The first one is for the artist Hope Montgomery. It's a fee of $650 for an hour-and-a-half performance on the night of Summerfest.
Are we doing all three of them in one shot?
We have them as separate ones, but we can combine them if we want.
Can we
Well, the resolution is for them,
Um,
and the lighting is separate.
And the lighting is separate, that, yes, sorry. And there's also $1,500 contract with, let's see, this one. With Highway 89 with Cindy Hicks. That's also for an hour-and-a-half performance. And then the third one is the Max for $2,500 for 2 hours. And that is all three artists for Summerfest.
So you were asking just to do this resolution, Sarah, versus combining all the Summerfest resolutions?
I was missing the two
Okay,
artists.
Mike just presented the one, but he needed to present the three, because all three are in the resolution.
Three, yeah, the three musicians or artists. All right, do we have any public comment on resolution number 4799?
Are they, excuse me, did the commission, agree to join the two together? As far as resolution,
No,
4799?
we're just on 4799.
My concern is not so much with the price of the resolution on there. I would really like to know if the commission's looked at the last 3 years on there. Has the city of Livingston broken even on the Summerfest? Period?
Yes, last year we made about $2,500.
Made $2,500 on there. When I got the notice from the rec department about the date of the one-day Summerfest, I was amazed that it would start on a Friday during a work week on there as opposed to on a weekend. On there, I'd just like to know what the rationale was like in the decision-making process. Thank you.
Sure. The decision-making process is based on trying to provide the service to the most people. The feedback we've gotten in past years is that, especially working families like that Friday evening before they go away for the weekend, to be able to attend Summerfest with their kids, especially the early part, and then no one's ever complaining about the later portions for Friday night.
Thank you. Any other public comment on resolution number 4799? Any commissioner discussion? Is there a motion on resolution number 4799?
I
Make a motion, we pass resolution 4799. I'll second.
So we have a motion by Friedman and a second by Mabel. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hoagland,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg, Commissioner Maybe.
4.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is resolution number 4800, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign a general services agreement with Moon Over Montana Sound and Lighting, Jerry Mullen, for Summerfest 2018. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the contract for the sound and lighting. It covers Summerfest. It is a $1,500 contract, and the city is also providing 2 hotel rooms for 1 night. And they will do the sound system and the lights for the arts.
Is there any public comment on resolution 4800? Any public comment? All right, any city commissioner comment? Questions? Do we have a motion on resolution number 4800?
Yeah, I make a motion, we pass resolution 4800. I second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Maybe. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hoagland,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg, Commissioner Maybe.
4.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is resolution number 4793, a resolution of the City of Livingston, Montana, of its intent to estimate the cost of maintaining lights and supplying electrical current to Special Improvement Lighting District number 20 in the amount of $79,200 for fiscal year 2018 to 2019, and levying and assessing property within said district for that part of the cost which is accessible area bears to the accessible area of the district. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this resolution, along with 4794, is what we discussed in our budget meetings under strike or under the light maintenance district. Those are combined into one. You see the dollar amounts for this one is 79,200. The two combined equate to about 10% increase in the light maintenance district. But you can see that entire amount is about $140,000. As we said before, most of that's going to go to the new lights that go in the downtown street project, the antique looking fixtures that we're adding in there, as well as beginning to save some money for an LED transition. So those are the two main cost increases for this, both this and the next resolution.
Do you have any public comment on resolution 4793?
I hate to be a nitpicker, but when we
Jay, would
talk
you
about,
mind just
excuse me.
stating your name each
Yes,
time?
Jay Keeper, 325 South Main.
Thank you.
There, when we talk about improvement district 20, aren't we saying the entire city? What, is there a reason why for people that come into the city meetings that we just can't put some parentheses and say entire city as opposed to district 20? It just seems it would be a little bit easier to understand what is going on with the city as opposed to trying to decipher what is District 20 and how big is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on resolution 4793? Commissioner, discussion?
I have a question. The 4793 and 4794 are two separate dollar amounts.
Yeah, yes.
Right? I don't understand that.
And one thing that helped me to understand this was the first resolution is maintenance and the second one's more operation and replacement. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Do we have a motion from the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 4793.
Second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hopple,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Friedman,
4.
Commissioner Sandberg. 4. Commissioner Mayhew.
4.
Motion passes. Next, we have resolution number 4794, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, of its intent to modify Special Improvement Lighting District number 20 by replacing streetlights and other appurtenances, that's such a hard word, therein, and to levy and assess 100% of the estimated cost of $70,400 for fiscal year 2018 to 2019 against every parcel of property within said district for that part of the cost which is accessible. Its accessible areas bear to the accessible area of the district and calling for public hearing. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the second half of the light maintenance district, and this is for the special improvements we were talking about, which are the replacements in the LEDs. I did mention on the first one, but it is applicable to all of these budget resolutions. These are resolutions of intent. They'll all come before you again at the next budget meeting for final reading before the vote. Other than that, we're doing the same from the last one.
Any public comment on resolution number 4794? Any commissioner questions or comments? Do I have a motion from the commission on resolution 4794?
I make a motion we pass resolution 4794.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hopple.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Friedman,
4.
Commissioner Sandberg. 4. Commissioner Mayhew.
4.
Motion passes. Next, we have resolution number 4795, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, of its intent to specify the assessment option for street maintenance and improvements, District Number 1, for fiscal year 2018 through 2019, levy and assess all property within the district. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the streets fund. So this covers the street maintenance, the patching, the new streets, gravel, chip seal, all of that for the grading of the alleys. And this year, we're looking at a 5% increase in the street fund. Again, most of that is going to the downtown street projects to be able to continue forward next year and hopefully maintain momentum down there. Again, it's a resolution of intent that we'll see again next week.
Any public comment on resolution 4795?
Jay Keeper, 245 South Main. Let me take a wild guess on there. We have one street maintenance district, and that's one. But our lighting, we have 20. Is there one reason why the district can't be one and one for everything to make things a little bit more logical? Thank you.
Do you know the reasoning behind the districts?
When the districts were created by statute, that's how they were created.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Do we have commissioner questions on resolution 4795? Sorry.
So a 5% increase, what was the rationale again for 5% increase? And what's the dollar figure? Is that
The dollar,
100,000?
the dollar figure, are you talking the total dollar figure?
No, what's the 5% equate to in dollars?
Across the board, that was, do you know off the top of your head, was it 100?
I think it was like 50 because it's $1 million district.
So it was, I think it was 60,000 was the total dollar increase was 60,000.
And why are we budgeting an increase?
Almost all of that goes to the downtown streets project as well as part of the new streets.
Any other commission questions or comments?
Yeah, we shouldn't have any problem if we, in the amount of $1,028,000 against each and every parcel of land within the district, we should be okay.
What do you mean by that?
That we're gonna assess everybody $1 million. The way the wording is on page 74.
Little afternoon humor.
Yeah, sorry, I know it's late.
Little small meal take us.
Any other comments or questions? So do we have a motion on resolution number 4795?
I make a motion, we pass resolution 4795.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Maybe. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Friedman,
4.
Commissioner Sandberg. 4. Commissioner Mayhew.
4.
Motion passes. Next, we have resolution number 4796, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, of its intent to adjust all rates for all customers of the City of Livingston's water system. Mr. Kirby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, a resolution of intent, this one is on water rates. There's a 2% increase projected for this year. The main drivers of the increase in the water rates were the additional costs in the downtown street project, as well as the fact that we had to cancel a water project this year due to those increased costs. So we're trying to put aside at least incrementally some money to get to those additional projects in the future to do infrastructure replacement.
Thank you. Any public comment on resolution number 4796?
Regarding resolution 4796, what were the water projects that were not able to be completed this year?
It was a 9th and 10th Street water replacement, water main replacement.
And you expected the cost of that project to be what?
I don't remember the exact cost.
6 and 7.
6 and 7. But 6 and 7, 9th and 10th, yeah, sewer one we canceled. Yeah, 6 and 7 water main replacement. I think that projected cost was 250 or 300,000.
And so how does this, it sounds like the work on Main Street is interfering with the work on 6th and 7th. I don't understand how there would be a delay between 6th and 7th and Main Street.
Yes.
The water fund can only support so many infrastructure projects at one time, because the Main Street project came in above what was projected for that cost. The money had to come from somewhere else, and it came from the 6th and 7th Street projects.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on resolution 4796? Any commissioner questions or comments? Sarah?
With the projected rate increase of 2%, wasn't the anticipated revenue something like $20,000 or $40,000?
I think it was a little more than that. I think it was, yeah, it was in that range. Though. It was like $40,000 to $60,000. It's going to be several years of putting aside money before we can pay for a project.
Right, but I don't remember seeing it in the budget as being put aside. So again, I'm not sure these rate increases that get promoted and portrayed to the community that they're needed for the projects. I've been on the commission, this will be my 3rd year now through the budget process with the same example. Those funds are never set aside and used for those projects. And again, the amount is so minimal, it's a dump in the bucket for those projects. And in reality, what I think it goes to pay for is, increases in operational costs and salaries. And I think it should be stated as such. Because again, we just had the budget. I don't see where this money was set aside for future projects in the budget, which is were presented.
Do you want the answers there, or do you want to just make your statement?
I don't think there's, yeah, I mean, am I missing that on the budget that it was set aside?
No, it's discussed.
So all
Likely.
basically goes into the reserves for the water fund, and that's where those projects are like that.
But I saw that we were spending everything in the budget. I didn't see that our projection was to have leftover funds in reserve.
We still have a reserve.
I know we have a reserve, but the budget would show all the revenue we were receiving and we're expending. I don't show a line item that said we will not spend this revenue.
There's not a line item, although that is one of the things we're looking at doing is using the CIP fund to transfer money into for specific projects, which I think will address your concern.
All the revenue was expenditure out, so I'm not sure where the reserves coming from. We have reserves now, I understand that, but I didn't see in the proposed budget where we were at.
Any other commission questions or statements? Do we have a motion on resolution number 4796?
I make a motion to pass resolution 4796.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against,
Commissioner Lee,
For,
Motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have resolution number 4797, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, of its intent to adjust all rates for all customers of the City of Livingston's wastewater system. Mr. Carnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is another resolution of intent, this one for the sewer system rates. In this case, it's a 2.5% increase. All of that is being driven by USDA requirements for debt service coverage for the water allocation facility. Reserve in the sewer fund is actually pretty healthy, but to meet the debt service requirements required by the USDA for their granting loan, we need to raise rates to 5%.
Could you explain as to why we have to rate, and I know to deal with the debt service, but what is the reason? Could you explain that to us?
The USDA requirements are not based off of any reserves you have. They don't count those towards what we can pay back to their loan. So the debt service requirement is driven by the actual revenue coming in to cover the debt service payments going out. So that's the formula they use to create what we need for rates in this case, to make sure that we have enough revenue coming in to pay that debt service.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on resolution number 4797?
Shane Cooper, 325 South Main. Regarding the current resolution on the table, is the city manager saying that the federal government is holding a gun at the head of the commission and that they have to raise their rates on there because it's something that they demand?
Mr. Curtis.
There are no guns involved. However,
Well, I know you can't have guns inside this building. I mean,
however, if we want their loan, then we have to meet their requirements. We don't have to take their loan, so we could give up that $5 million. But if we're going to take that $5 million loan, then yes, we have to meet their requirements.
it's not a rate requirement, it's showing you have the revenue. So another option would be to lower your expenses. That would be another option. But we're choosing not to do that. We're choosing to raise rates so we have the appropriate revenue.
is there a reason why Commissioner Sandberg's option was not even considered by you?
It was considered.
And I guess it didn't, but it didn't get much leeway. You didn't pay much attention to it.
I'm not paying as much attention to it as every other option.
I see. Thank you.
Any other public comment on resolution 4797? Commissioner comments, questions? Do we have a motion on resolution 4797?
I will make a motion to approve resolution 4797.
Second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against.
Commissioner Levy,
Four.
Motion passes. Next, we have resolution number 4798, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, giving notice that the City Commission has completed its preliminary budget in the amount of $17,664,869 for the fiscal year beginning on July 1st, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2019. FY 2018-2019. That the budget is on file and available for public inspection and on the internet at www.livingstonmontana.org and calling for a public hearing for approval of the final budget and making appropriations. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is just a resolution of intent to call the public hearing during next meeting to finalize the budget. The numbers provided in both the general fund budget working session and the special fund working session add up to that total you see there of 17 million and change. So there have been no changes since our budget meetings. There was a few small adjustments in the ambulance budget for income from the county, but other than that, it remains as the same. It is available for people to go out and check out on the internet, and we encourage all residents to go out there and do that. They can dig as much detail as they want to into the budget for this year, and then we will hold a public hearing in July for our meeting to pass the final budget.
So July 17th. Do we have any public comment on resolution 4798? Any commissioner questions at this time? Comments? Do we have a motion on resolution number 4798?
Make a motion we pass resolution 4798.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against.
Commissioner Levy,
Four.
Motion passes. Next, we have resolution number 4803, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to assign all documents required to execute change order number G-2 to the general construction contract for the Livingston Water Reclamation Facility upgrade project pending USDA-RD's formal concurrence. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for a quick update, we did receive initial concurrence from USDA RD on this change request. However, Commissioner Sandberg had requested a review of the history of the project and the costs associated with it and how we got from there to here. So we have a short PowerPoint presentation for you, and we'll run through that real quick, and hopefully that will answer the questions. And then the actual change order itself is related to Dick Anderson's construction costs. If you remember the presentation we gave you on underground pipes and other utility services that they had to work around that were unknown. Most of the costs are associated with that. There's a couple other small costs associated with reinforcing some areas, and there are some changes to some insulation that actually saves some money, but all that's in the actual change order. So,
So that's G1 and G2 now.
in this case, it's just G2.
G2, okay.
Yep, just G2. So, but if you would, and hopefully we can have on the screen real quick. There you go. And next slide, please. So, and this is difficult to read, and I don't know if I brought any paper copies, but I do have some paper copies of this. This is just a quick overview that shows you the entire process from 2013, when it was first initially conceptualized, up until we did the bid to go out to Dick Anderson Construction. So that's the time frame we'll be talking about. to make it easier, we've broken the slides down into shorter time frames so we can discuss some of those in more detail. So next slide, please. All right, so when we first started talking in 2013, we started with the preliminary engineering report, next bullet. We were talking about only the upgrade of the secondary treatment. So we weren't talking about the primary, we weren't talking about increased and redoing the UV section of it. It was only the secondary treatment. So that was the first step. It was a conceptual, there were no plans or designs associated with it. It was just where are we? Next bullet, please. And we're only talking construction costs. So no administrative costs associated with any loans, no construction management costs. Those were the only costs that went into the initial estimate that was given to you back then. Next bullet. It says minimal contingency. I'm not sure there was really any contingency associated with it. So by minimal, I think I mean 0, but I couldn't prove that. And then last one, the solid project is down there. Is actually was slated for phase 2. You can see it in the green. So that was a separate project altogether. When we first started, this concept was an oxidation ditch, which is a pretty simple design. It has some limitation. All the rage in rural India right now, but in general, it was a very simplistic design, a very simplistic system. It probably would have met the requirements of the new DEQ permit, but there would have been some trouble, especially with changing flows. It's not real great at adjusting for changing flows and being able to adjust some of those things. The second step was actually a improvement to that system of an oxidation ditch, which was ATO, A2O, which I think is it anaerobic or aerobic?
It's both.
Well, one is anoxic. It's like aerobic and anoxic. It's just a simple improvement to the oxidation ditch, which keeps it in some agitation for a while and then lets it settle for a while to develop different kinds of bacteria. So it was an improvement, same concept, still held to settle the solids differently. And at that point, we were at $11 million. So this is still not the concept that we currently are building. And it still is only construction costs and solids and only the upgrade to the first one. So you can keep bullet through these real quick. So at this line now that we're looking at right here, this is where AE2S came in and did a process evaluation. They looked at the oxidation ditch, they looked at the ETO process, and they looked at what they refer to as ICIS, which is intermittent cycling extended aeration system. So it's a better system of waste activates. So it's just a different system that uses sequential batch reactors instead of a ditch. So they came in, they said, hey, the ICIS is the process that we recommend for your treatment plant. We think it's the best for not only the discharge, but also for handling the changing flows and some of the other processes we do. It was a little more complicated to implement. It is fairly easy to operate, which is one of the advantages of it. Can be highly automated. Again, this was only a construction cost, and the solids were still in a separate project at this point. So we're up to what, 11 million on there? 11.4. Yeah, 11.4. So this is kind of the line in the sand where we switch systems, but we still had to switch over to the entire concept of what we're talking about. So next slide, please. All right, so this broke down. At one point, you guys would have seen a T-step application, and this is the point that came into being. So this was about 4 weeks into AE2S's tenure. Go ahead and put this. What's up there? At this point, they said, hey, you're going to have to upgrade the whole plant at some point. If you only upgrade part of it, going back to try and get money from USDA or anybody else, they're going to say, why are you splitting this into projects? You need to look at the entire plant. So we looked to change the scope at this point from a partial upgrade to more of a comprehensive upgrade to include the headworks, to include the UVs going out. Again, I said this is about 4 weeks after they came on. 14.6 million is what you would have seen on the TSEP application. And this is the first time we ever used the actual funding agencies worksheets that you would get used to seeing later on. At this point, it was just TSEP because we still want to talk in USDA. So this was the TSEP portion of it. So it was 14.6 million for engineering, design, and construction only. Again, the uniform funding application forms was the first time we did that. And so that's your very first estimate on what this plant would cost, which is 16 million.
So on that 14.6, the actual report that was provided to us stated that that would include engineering, construction, and administration. It didn't say engineering and construction on it. It had administration in that document.
There was some administration in there. The last portion was like 1.1 million, I think, but that wasn't construction management. It was just the like funds administration.
I'd have to go back and read it, but that's not how I remember how it was being read, because it stated that, and it stated there would be no additional expenses associated with, and I don't have that verbiage with me, but it specifically stated administration, engineering, and construction. All administrating.
I don't think that TSEP form did, but it definitely did
I'm
not.
not talking the TSEP form, I'm talking about what was presented to us in a document that we approved for the preliminary from AE to us. It was their preliminary report that had that 14.6 that they provided to us. And it said this estimate included all administrative costs.
Again, administrative, not construction.
What's the difference?
One's construction. Administration is like of the actual funding sources, not of the. So that's their administration portion is when they give you the ECGB, the paper that says it's in compliance with USDA, TSEP, all the other funding agencies. That's administering the funding portion of it, is to give that in the proper.
It didn't delineate the administration was, and you know, we don't have to argue this here, but I would suggest that we would look at that because it administration can be construction management. If we're assuming that it didn't mean that, it didn't anywhere else in their state that there would be an additional cost of construction management in that report that was provided to us. So I was under because of that and stating it was covering administration, and they had engineering and construction fees, that would include the construction management as well.
Okay, well,
I don't know, at that point, there was nothing to administer because they hadn't gone after any funding. So
well, we had at that point because that was the TSEP form, and that was the TSEP funding.
that was not the TSEP form that I'm referring to. I'm referring to the preliminary engineering report that was provided to us as a commission. Their report.
At the same time, do you know what time frame that was?
It was in our meeting of April 19th, 2016.
Okay, because that April sheet also has a TSEP form in it, which has that $14.6 million in it, which covers most of this. But and again, I don't know what was presented to you, but going back through the paperwork, construction management was not part of that quote. Maybe that could have been conveyed better, but it was not. Fair enough. Next one. All right, so 14.6 or 16 is where we started, and then you can see the changes in there that ended up at 19.5. We'll go over each point separately. So from there, we went to 16 to 17.2. So this was, like we said, the first estimate was given about 4 weeks into AHUS's tender. At that point, after talking to funding agents and doing the 30% design with DEQ, that construction cost, you can see the blue line is what actually drove that increase. So that's actual construction costs. And we were up at 17.2 million. And the next one, at that point, the construction cost estimates also increased. At this point, you'll notice that the contingency went down significantly. That was at the direction of the funding agencies. Basically, they didn't want to keep up with our changes. They're like, we don't want you to change the final number that much because we don't want to pay for it. So hold the final number the same. Work on your construction costs, and we'll get closer to the end of the year. And so that's why you can see that contingency goes down to a very small number. However, the yellow line stays the same. That was not a realistic number. We were never going to have a contingency of $100,000. So that's why that wasn't an increase, but in reality, it was at that point. At the next point where this increase goes up, this is where USDA came back to us and said, hey, we've been involved in several of these projects around the state now. We think your estimates are low. You need to adjust them according to these other projects that we've seen. We looked at their numbers and said, yep, that was good. And so we increased, you can see there, the construction costs went up again, and now we're at 14.6 million for the actual construction costs. The contingency came back into it at that point, because this was the, I think this was the final design. It's already been approved at this point. So now we're up at 19.3 million. That was the final estimate that the commission received. And then next slide, that is the actual bid. So 19.3 was the last estimate we had. when the bid came back from Dick Anderson and we added in all the other costs, 19.5 is where we ended up. That's what came in from the bid. That's where we currently stand as far as the budget goes for this project. Next slide.
So, sorry. Back on the previous one, so the difference between the construction estimate plus the contingency and the total activity, that's the construction management, and what else? What's making up the difference between 18.6 and 15.8?
Construction management is the main portion of that.
Okay.
Because construction management was 1.3.
Do we know what the other million was? And that's probably half of it.
I can't remember off the top of my head. That number includes, so we had the total activity cost. Go back to the slide. As well. Yeah, it's design engineering. So it's a design engineering and construction. So that covers that entire time frame. So just to break
The original engineering in the contract wasn't enough.
no, that isn't. That was the original that you approved. Was the design engineering. That's the first thing that was approved.
At the 14.6.
But way before that, the design happened before that.
I'm just going back again to that original document that talked about that covered the engineering as well. So apparently it didn't cover engineering design.
No, that was in the original one. That gray to orange didn't change by anything in there except for the construction cost. The design cost stayed the same, as it always was from the beginning.
Okay, well, they had that in with the 14.6. So that's, if I'm following the blue line and the red line, to me, that includes the engineering expense.
It does include the engineering, but not the design.
So that's what I was saying, telling me the engineering design was in addition to the engineering.
Yes, because there's the construction engineering, and then there's engineering design, which is different. So
And
this,
they didn't think they would have engineering design in their original proposal then.
they did.
It wasn't in it at 14.6.
No, that was because that's part of the administrative cost, so it wasn't included in that. That's what took you from the 14.6 up to the 16 in the original. In the original amount, that's that difference in there. So first half of this, and we'll just go over the broad review. We'll go ahead and hit the next two. So in the first half of that, there was a two-phase partial upgrade approach. Go ahead and hit the next one. Those are the things that were not included. So the planning, the administration, contingency, and construction management were included in the first half and all. And then the solids was an entirely separate project that we were doing like that. And then in the second half, we go to the comprehensive single project approach. So that's pretty much an overview of every step of the project, where the cost came in, and where the project went. So the total increase in cost from this project, once it was actually put in and everything was considered, was 16 to 19.6, 19.5, most of which was driven by the increases in construction costs, both from the USDA estimate and then just the inflation that happened over those years. So that being said, what we're bringing for you tonight is actually the change order from Dick Anderson. This will be annotated as change order G2. We've already approved change order G1. If you look on page 93, it gives you a quick breakdown there of the changes to the contract. The current contingency usage after this is approved would be $387,000 out of our $985,000, which leaves us $598,000 contingency for the remainder of the project. That's all I have. I can answer questions if you have anything specific on the items in G2. It's the end of the presentation.
Yes. we have any public comment on resolution number 4798?
Regarding this change to is it DK Anderson?
Yeah.
There,
Jay, could you wait 1 second? I said the wrong number. I apologize.
what's
Resolution number 4803.
48.
Sorry.
Okay. Regarding the executive change order, there, when didn't Mr. Anderson have the scope of what everything needed to, what your desires were to be accomplished when this was first, when you first signed on with him?
Yes.
Okay, if he knew what was involved there, and I gather this is not his first rodeo. He's done several of these before, so we're not his guinea pig. There, shouldn't he have known about what the expenses were and what the problems may lay for the city?
Not all.
Not all the time. There, right now, what percentage are you over cost? And how much over cost are you going to run?
We're not over cost at all.
It seems, okay. And how are you managing to control costs when everything keeps on going up and up and up?
Nothing has changed since we did the job.
Nothing?
The budget has not changed since we did.
Okay. Would it be possible, Commissioner Sandberg referenced the original document that listed administration fees. Is there any way that the city, residents of this city can see the original document on it?
Sure, it was in the agenda package.
No, it was in this package?
That was in the original agenda.
Well, okay. For those of us who don't have the original agenda package, is there any way that it can surface at another commission meeting so that we can review them? That is to compare and contrast what you're actually saying in 2018 versus what happened in 2016?
That would be up to the commission.
Okay.
You should be able to find it if you pull the agenda packet from April 19th.
Thank you very much.
And Jade, I have the paper copies if you want me to find it for you. I can go back and
I'll probably jot you a note. Thank you.
thank you.
I think there might be a misunderstanding. The design, as I understood it, the design was changed from the original. So where we are now wasn't the original design presentation that the original estimate was based on. Is that correct? So the design or the estimate was based on a different design than it evolved to.
Okay.
Another issue I know in this change order was what they found underground. Is that correct? So they found some power lines, various pipes from our past situation that we probably in time had tried to fix one way or another. So I did have a question on, you said that they have had some decreases. As well as somebody, like, why do you want to change the insulation, for example? And I just want to try to understand the word request or the change order request. So I'm assuming the underground improvements have to do with the problems that they confronted when they dug deeper. Then like why would the insulation change? That kind of thing, why, that was a rejection. The upgrade in the fire alarm system. So that's just adding a new Ethernet that wasn't a deal.
It makes it a web-based instead of just a regular alarm, so it ties it into the system.
Okay, and then how about this, like the insulation, $7,080?
So, and Shane, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but every time there's a change order, A2S as a construction management sits down with the manager and says, okay, this is gonna cost more, is there a way we can offset it? And they look at the design and they see if there's any changes that occurred where they think they can save some money. In this case, I think they decided that, did they change the type of insulation or did they just remove some?
Nope, they changed the type.
Yes.
So they just made a proposal to A2S on using a different material from actually a local supplier. A2S evaluated the cut sheets on that and found that it was an approved equal, but it cost less because it was from a local supplier over in Gallatin County.
Great, thanks. And then the gas line reroute had to do with the problems with what's on the ground, upgrade anchors for cat walk. And I guess just the sump, was that an issue to do with groundwater?
Yeah, that was something we asked for that's gonna make it easier to clean out the facility in the future. We have the ability, so they didn't have to rework some concrete when they were pouring it, but in general, it'll make it a cleaner facility and easier to upkeep.
Okay, and then the anchors, is that just a,
If they were looking at the catwalk and decided that the anchors that they had weren't sufficient, and so they upgraded those to make sure that it's gonna be safe.
So why on something like that? I mean, if that's an engineering design, which is what the contractor bid off of. So apparently the engineers failed to pick the appropriate structural integrity for those. So you can't blame the contractor. I mean, he bid it based on what they supplied. Why is the engineering firm not eating that, considering that was obviously a miss?
It actually was a change in the actual overall design. For some of the other equipment we put in, changed the way the catwalk would go in. And because of that, the supports were different, and so they needed to upgrade the anchor. So everything's
I know, but
related.
who designed, I mean, the issue is who designed the catwalk, which is what the construction company bid.
Right, that was the original catwalk.
And it was not structurally, didn't have the structural integrity, so to me, it should go back with those people who did the design on that, which is what the contractor built, and said, no, you didn't provide us the accurate engineering drawings, and so here's the change. Why are we paying for this?
Because we actually changed the design to change how the catwalk did.
So where's the fee that I'm seeing here for changing the catwalk then?
That is the fee. This
Well,
required.
this, it just says updating anchors. It doesn't say design change for the catwalk.
Well, everything is in relation to other design changes, so a lot of this stuff is interrelated.
any other questions or comments for the commission? Warren?
One other change order a while back, I believe it was negotiated down from 400 and some thousand to 200 and some thousand. Is there any option for doing that with this particular change order? I looked at the some of the details as far as work crews and salaries, and that's pretty much the only thing that I could see hard numbers on. But does that possibility exist?
So this number that comes before you is already negotiated down. That's what A2S does with the Anderson report comes. The ones that we showed you before that were negotiated down, that was for A2S. So we were the ones doing the negotiating on that one. Because we're paying them. This is the case that A2S is doing negotiation for us with the campers. So that's where some of those cost savings come in. They're looking at the entire project and saying, okay, why are we making this change? Is that, who asked for this design change? Is this something the city asked for to improve performance? Is this something that you're asking for? So they go through that entire process with every one of these change orders. And you can, if you go back to page 96, you can see that each one of these was a change order request with A2S. So on each line item was brought separately. We're combining them for you, so you can do all at one time. But each one was negotiated separately.
Thank you.
Would you say this request is mostly structural versus where the other change order had to do with engineering costs, et cetera?
Yeah, so this is with construction specific. So this is, since it's with Dick Anderson, it's all construction related.
It's structural in general.
Yes.
I mean, like something that's,
Yeah, it's all physical items. The engineering portion, we don't take the Anderson from engineering.
any other questions from the commission? So last call on questions for resolution number 4803. We have a motion by the commission on resolution number 4803.
I have a motion with that resolution 4803.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hopper,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against?
Commissioner Maybe.
For,
Motion passes. Next, we have resolution number 4804, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement for the design for phase 3 and for capital improvement project. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the first step in the next two phases of the downtown improvement project for the downtown streets. This will mirror the exact same process we used for phase 1 and 2. The first step is the design portion. We did let this last time to TD&H. Again, we're looking for them as a city engineer to come and design the next phases, which are phase 3 and 4. In this case, it is a construction management contract with a total cost of $82,000. That's their cost. We've added in $7,700 as a contingency just to make sure that we have the total amount needed, which gives us a total authorized cost of $89,700. On page 133 there, you can see the breakdown of where that funding is coming from. 14.5 from water, 22.7 from sewer, 47.5 from street, and 5,000 from light maintenance. This will, and I don't know if you have a graph of this one. We looked at it in the last meeting, but it's the next 2 blocks of main and over on the park. So that is
The last block of the park, right?
down to the alley.
Do we have any public comment on resolution number 4804?
Regarding the, South Main, regarding the resolution with TD&H, does the city manager have any inkling that there's going to be some design changes in phase 2 and 3 of what you're talking about in resolution?
I don't see.
Well, I don't think that we were expecting design changes in other city business, and I'm just wondering, well, what should the city expect? There's going to be a whoopsie on there. We ran into something that we didn't expect.
Probably not in the design.
Well, besides the design, just what is going to be in the other phase of it? Can you sort of give us the blow by blow?
Not really, because that's what the design will do. That'll give us what we're doing in the contract.
So you have no idea until everything gets designed, what the project is gonna look like?
It'll be new streets, new sidewalks, new curbs, new storm sewer.
Thank you.
Any other public comments on resolution number 4804? Commissioner questions or comments? Sarah?
Did we put this out for bid to see if we could get this done at a better price?
We didn't, because it's such a small contract, the cost of going out to bid and the time delays are probably not worth anything we could say. The main thing, again, is time in this one, because we'd like to, start early in the spring season. Additionally, TD&H already has the design for phases 1 and 2, which should make this less expensive and easier for them to design than any other engineering firm who have to first go back and review phases 1 and 2 and make sure it all fit together. We won't have to pay TD&H to do that. So even if there was a firm that had a better rate, it's unlikely that they could come in below TD&H just because they've already been intimately involved in the project.
So in other words, we don't.
We don't know.
We're
It's-
speculating.
It's unlikely, but we don't.
We're speculating. What did they charge us for the design for 1 and 2?
I'd have to go back and look, I'm not sure.
So we don't even know where this compares to what they charged us for 1 and 2. After they have that under their belt, it should be easier. So we would expect this to probably be less than 1 and 2, I would guess. But we don't have that information.
Well, we did when we looked at it, but I don't have it. But again, it depends on the scope of the design, not so much what it was in the last. It's a different design.
I was just following up on your comment that they're familiar with it and they designed the first one, so it would be an easier design.
It should be, yes. Easier than for anybody else to do it, not necessarily easier than the first 2 phases.
Any other commissioner comments, Warren?
I'm a little concerned about the, maybe not necessarily this specific one, but the whole bidding process, because a while back, I'm not sure who did the grant writing, but there were several independent grant writers that were produced a grant for about $10,000, and the city paid $40,000. I believe for the same grant. So that kind of makes me a little concerned about how some of the bidding or the quoting or whatever is being done. And I'd like to see, again, not necessarily this project, but I would like to see a more competitive approach to bidding out projects.
Do you know what grant that was? Or when it was? Was it while the city had an on-staff grant?
It was not done by the city staff, but it might have been a grant to the USDA or a request or something to the USDA. I remember the numbers. It was 40-some thousand versus 10,000, and that 10,000.
That was the information I provided at the meeting when I went to talk to the professional grant writer in town, who had provided comps for a similar project and same value and what they had charged. And it was roughly 10,000. TD&H charged us, I think it was 50 for the same grant.
Do you know
So
what
that-
grant that was?
It was part with the water reclamation.
That's AE2S.
Yeah.
TD&H didn't write any grants. for the
Well,
water, yeah.
AE2S, whoever we had do it.
I thought we hashed it out.
We didn't hash it out. I provided the information and everyone went radio silent.
So Warren, do you need more from Mr. Produce regarding the competitiveness?
No, that was just a general comment on the process. Thank you.
I think that, being competitive is important. I agree with you. I'm seeing this one just as a little different just because of and I think we all are, but that this project makes more sense to me to continue with the same, the same contractor or design engineers because of them knowing the information we already have on the rest of the streets. That helps, I think, to hopefully keep the price down, the cost down a little. But I think the issue of competitiveness should be discussed further as time goes on. Any other commissioner comments? Okay, do I have a motion on resolution number 4804?
Make a motion to pass resolution 4804.
Do you have a second?
I'll second 4804.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Copeland,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Freeman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against.
Commissioner Feely,
For.
Motion passes. Next, we have resolution number 4802, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign a collective bargaining agreement with the Montana Public Employees Association, Livingston Police Unit for fiscal years July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a 2-year contract with the MPDA, which includes both the Livingston Police Department and the dispatch, who now fall under the Livingston Police Department. The big changes in this contract, most of it is aligning the dispatch incentive with the LPD incentives. Since the R1, they've always been one bargaining unit, but now they're actually under one department head. Standardize some of the differential pay, night pay, and supervisor pay, which I think is an excellent addition to this. We're actually not paying our dispatch supervisor any extra over the senior dispatchers, which is probably not a good way to recruit and retain qualified supervisors. So that was added to this contract. Other changes, we did change the standard test used to do their physical fitness assessments that they can do for additional benefits. Most of the rest of it stayed the same. The discipline guide stayed the same. That was one of the things that this contract that I think is an excellent product that the MPA put together. They have their own set of discipline standards that they adhere to, which is unique among our unions. And they're very stringent in how they police themselves. So I appreciate that. The other significant changes in the actual compensation itself, you find that on page 174, with a 4% base wage increase starting this year and 3% the following year. The main drivers of that, it did align us kind of in the middle of the pack, which is our goal for our comps. Additionally, since we've handed them a new responsibilities for as far as code enforcement goes, there was some increase in the basis for that too. This contract also now captures the code enforcement officer, which is a new position under the contract, so that's been accepted by the union and is incorporated into this contract. I think that covers the main changes. This is already budgeted in this year's general fund budget, so the budget that was before you includes this areas, so that's not changed. And it's covered by the current system.
Do we have any public comment on resolution 4795? Wait, wrong number. Hold on. 4802. Any public comment on resolution number 4802? Do we have any commissioner comments or questions? Sarah?
Do we have a fiscal impact, what this is costing us? I didn't see one provided.
It's the same as in the budget. You can look up, we can look up the salaries cost in the budget. Do you have that off your page?
I don't. And that wouldn't show the next year's.
Well, this year's budget does not show this year's.
No, but I'm used to seeing something like this presented with the fiscal impact, what it's gonna cost year 1 and year 2. So we know what we're approving in dollars.
Do you remember that, Dr. Hood?
No.
I can get that to you. It was, I don't know, say,
And I think also then, you know, 4 and 3% increase, which I think is rather generous, when, you know, we received an email from the administration about all the cuts we're gonna have to make due to the levy not passing. I'm not understanding if that's the case, how we can approve 4 and 3% raises. And I understand there's an argument for maintaining and retaining staff, but if you don't have the revenue, you don't have the revenue.
So the ability to address the EMS services, they didn't go into the general fund.
I bet it dealt with dispatch too.
It did deal with dispatch, but most of the mill levy was for capital improvements.
Because I thought in the email you provided to us, there would be cutbacks in staff.
No, no cutbacks in staff for dispatch, we just aren't adding extra staff.
Like the second drug force.
Right.
Force.
So the Missouri River Task Force officer will not be added, so that's just a budget control.
Any other questions? Other questions? Any more questions, comments?
It does give you the 2-year numbers for each position on page 182.
Yeah, but that doesn't take into account what the budget is. I mean, we don't,
It doesn't give you the full picture, but
it
it does
doesn't
give you the.
give you remotely the full picture. Because with all the incentives and everything that's based, you know, those numbers are meaningless. We don't.
Well, the incentives haven't changed, it's just the base salary.
Right, but that's not what people are getting paid. That's the base. What they're getting paid is considerably different than that.
So I guess I'm confused which number you're looking for. Are you looking for
I'm
total
wondering what is
number
this
or
gonna
the
cost?
change?
Yeah,
Well, the
what is
change
this-
wouldn't include any of those incentives.
what is, I understand it won't include the incentives, but what is 4% costing us as an entity?
Okay, so without the incentives, just so the base pay.
Right.
Yeah, we can get you
And what the health insurance as well.
that. This health insurance doesn't cost anything as far as the general fund.
Well, it's costing city money, so what with the increase in health insurance, what is that costing the city?
You want that across the entire city staff or just this company?
Well, we usually get it in the budget, but yeah, I mean, when we're looking,
It wasn't in the budget.
I'm used to looking at a contract that says, this is what we negotiated and this is what it's gonna cost us in dollars. So we know what we're approving and how much it costs.
So are you looking just for the increase or are you looking for the health?
The total increase of this contract, the 2 years.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? So do I have a motion on resolution number 4802?
I'll make a motion to approve, resolution 4802.
Second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hoagland,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against,
Commissioner Maybe.
Four.
Motion passes. Last resolution tonight is resolution number 4805, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign an agreement to convey and acquire with Northwestern Corporation. An agreement to convey and acquire. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you,
What are
Madam
we-
Chair.
Yeah, it sounds like we're buying a new building.
Well, we try to hospital over. This is something we've been working on with Northwestern Energy. When they built their new substation, they no longer needed a brick building that's located right next to Mark's. And so they had offered it to us at no cost, just as a transfer. It will require us to allow them to have some easements and some right of ways for some of the equipment they have there, but the actual building itself, they will be able to at no cost. We looked at it, it's actually a fairly good structure and will be useful for cold storage. There's not a lot of infrastructure in the building. So we've worked through it with their lawyers, they're happy with where we're at with the terms of them being able to get into the equipment that they placed on the premises. So the only cost for us will be the maintenance costs, upkeep of the building and mobile. It might actually be we have more uses for it than we have space right now, so it's just going to be determined which one is best. We have some more water dams in our archives, so it might be a nice place to keep the archives. Might also be a nice place to keep some of the confiscated equipment before the auction. There's several. Good financing. We could go financing. They give the marks every day. So it was nice that Northwestern Energy offered to us. We've worked through all the legal details as far as it's possible with us to go forward. And we're coming for you tonight to ask you to sign the agreement or to allow me to sign the agreement to take over possession.
Do we have any public comment on resolution number 4805? Any commissioner questions, comments?
Do you know what they were paying for tax revenue on that building?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think it was significant. We could turn, I mean, we could say no and they could sell it and lose and still maintain that, but I think we're better off to have the storage space in the tax revenue.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just curious what the
No, I don't want
revenue was. That's it.
Any other questions, comments, commissioners? Would you update us just on how we see the city using that building in the future if it does pass?
We'll have a case management second. We'll watch it.
Thank you. So do I have a motion on resolution number 4805?
I make a motion with this, resolution 4805.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Friedman and a second by Meady. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hopwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg, or Commissioner Maybe.
Four.
Motion passes. Thank you. That went well for having 12 resolutions tonight. Next on our agenda, we have action items. Our first action item is to discuss, approve, deny request for fee waiver from Livingston Food Resource Center. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Michael's here. If you don't mind, he can come up and speak to you real quick with his request, and then we'll give you the staff recommendation.
Good evening. Michael McCormick, representing the Livingston Food Resource Center. In 3 weeks, we plan to begin construction of an addition onto the back of the existing facility. And this 500 square feet of refrigeration, freezer and cooler, 250 square feet of each. It's hard to believe, but we've been in the building now for 3 years, and we quickly outgrown our capacity to process locally acquired foods for distribution in our local food system. And we see those activities as not only ways to feed people better, more nutritious food, but we're doing it by keeping money in our local economy, supporting our area farmers, and distributing good, nutritious food to children, senior citizens, you name it. And this capacity will allow us to increase our ability to acquire food from regional farmers, bring it in and process it for distribution in the food pantry and through other food programs such as the school. We are now processing the locally grown organic produce for use in school meal programs. So the 500 square foot addition is budgeted at $89,000. $89,000 has been raised and is in the bank. What is not in the bank is the $1,512 estimate for a a building permit. What I'm asking the city to do is assist with this effort by waiving that fee.
I have a question right away. So this, the location of the freezer slash refrigerator, is that where the little garden used to be?
Right where we had the raised beds.
Where
in
the
back.
gravel is at
Right,
this time?
Right. Those tanks have all been donated to other organizations. They're gone and we're ready to begin construction.
Any other questions from the commission?
I'll just say, I don't have sour grapes, even though the school district had to pay building permit fees and impact fees, among other things, to the tune of 6 figures. But I feel the need to help support the nonprofits.
And
Just wishing the school district could have had the same deal.
so we can work on that. Any other questions?
Questions? We need public comments, so thank you, Michael. If there's
Thank you.
any
Thank you.
public comments that come up that need to be answered, we'll call you. Any public comment on action item A? Any final commissioner comments or discussion on this?
Do we have an administration recommendation?
So the staff looked at it, Michael gave you the estimate of $1,500. If there's any organization in the city that probably is worth that investment, it's Food Pantry. They do a tremendous job returning that kind of investment to the city. So the staff wholeheartedly recommends what you
Any other information you want to share with us before we move to?
It's pretty straightforward, just a straight.
It doesn't cost us anything in the state.
No effect.
Yeah.
We donate a little bit of chance time.
Do I have a motion from the commission on action item A?
Would like to make a motion to approve action item A.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Beatty. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Copeland,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Or
Commissioner Friedman,
Or
Commissioner Sandberg, or Commissioner Mayhew.
Or
Motion passes. Next action item.
Thank you.
We have discussed approved deny request for street vacation in a 500 block of North D Street. Mr. Carduce.
thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa, can you pull up the Google Maps on that one, just so we can get a trip over? The applicant has requested a vacation of the D Street right of way. This is up between Montana and Gallatin, obviously between C and E. To be able to span some of that area, they own property on the other side of the right of way that then could possibly be used as for construction of another house. So right there, you can see the arrow that points to the current house. The right of way is just to the right of that, so that's D Street that runs up and down there, and then it runs down the hill, which is fairly steep, and the right of way would have run out onto Gallatin Street. However, sometime in the past, and I couldn't tell you exactly when that was, from the ditch to Gallatin Street has already been vacated. So there is no through pathway in that area. Additionally, looking at other uses for that current right-of-way, obviously trails were always mentioned as a use. Again, there's no through way to get to any other street from there. It would just go down to the ditch and back up. Additionally, both C Street, which is to the west, and E, which sometimes is listed as Montana Street, so it's the street on the right there. So it's easier for you to see. The right-of-way currently runs here to here. If vacated, this right-of-way on C Street from here, which does run all the way to Gallatin Street, is still available. Additionally, this street covers this route here And I don't know, just, do you know if this right away is still in place, Jim?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so you could actually connect from here to here with the trail and also up the hill to some point, possibly on the end of, I think that's Reservoir? No, that's
Summit.
Summit, to the end of Summit. So there are several connection available that surround this particular right-of-way. In general, I wouldn't vacate a street, but since some of it has already been vacated, it really eliminates any of the other uses that would be available for it. Additionally, I've already talked to the utilities. Northwestern Energy also has no problems with, as far as utility right-of-ways go in that particular street, the easements. If they add an additional house up there, they'll have to figure out the easements for any utilities at that time. So in this particular case, again, looking at this as an individual request, because the vacation has already occurred from the ditch down, there really is no projected need for the city, and not even really a speculated need that I can think of for the city to have that right away. So the staff is not against the vacation of this section of the street.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comment on action item B?
I go in 611 B Street. I live right above there, and I guess this is the first time I heard about this action being taken. But to get addressed somewhere in the Eagles or what? How did it?
It just out of the agenda.
It wasn't none of the property owners really want to write about it.
I think all the property owners that border on that street.
So I live right up here, this house.
It would only be people that actually border the right of way. We'd be notified that.
Yeah. One thing about that little area there, because when we get snow up on the hill, all the snow gets pushed into that little corner. So that's kind of a snow storage area. Also, it's kind of a nice view from the hill. Start putting houses up there, start blocking the views and stuff. And did the parking trust committee take a look at this? No? Were you notified about it?
Not until the agenda item.
Yeah. I think we need to start taking a look at it first. See if there's any possibility of a trail or something like that. I didn't know you could walk through there. I used to have to walk all the way across to, and then up to B Street to get down the hill. And so I would like to see it discussed in park adjustments first before you start making decisions. Because even if it just leads down to the ditch, there's all kinds of trails on the ditch to get down to the left. Thank you.
Any other public comment on action item B?
I'd like to talk about, could you go up to the slide with a recommendation from the committee? There that was just previously on the screen. To you, it was addressed to you, Mr. Carlos. At the recent meeting, May 29th, the DRC reviewed the request by Mr. Hoover. Can anybody tell me why, when you are having city business, that you cannot spell out what the initials are? Anybody that took any English knows that you spell out the words first, and then you go into initials. Thank you very much.
So if you look at the from, you scroll just a little further back. If you look at the from section, it's the Development Review Committee, right there under from. Okay.
Point note.
Could you go back to that map? Lisa, that looks like this one with the flag. So do we know who owns the properties on each side of this?
Yes, the name's listed.
Okay, now what about below the house? See, it's not listed.
That's all one.
Well, yeah, they own all.
They own that. And then on the other side of it, where it's blank from 32, it goes from 23 to 32 plots.
23 to 39 is the two owners at the top, and then 30 to 32 is the owners listed there. Or are you talking which section?
Right here, so this section, the blank one.
Oh, yeah, we didn't fill that one in because that's not, doesn't apply. That's on the other side of the alley.
Do we have any questions? First from the commission? Sarah?
The Development Review Committee, who are they and what do they do? I don't think I've ever heard of them before.
It's internal. It's the planning department, the police chief, fire chief. Shannon, you on that one? Yeah, Shannon's on that one, public works. So we look at it from all those interdisciplinary viewpoints to make sure that there's not something that we would miss as why it was needed. So it's looked at from a planning perspective, law enforcement, emergency service, and law enforcement.
Is that a new committee?
I don't think it's new.
Created
for a while.
in 1995.
And so do we, I'm just not familiar, so I'm sorry. I've heard things coming from, various other committees, but the development review is new to me. Is there an outline of what comes your way?
There is, it's actually in chapter 2 of the city codes.
Chapter 2.
It was basically, street vacations were one of the main reasons it was created because there was no other committee charged with that. But anything that the city manager would like advice on, he can submit to that committee.
A lot of times we also use it for things like road closures, that kind of stuff.
And is that a standing committee that the city manager, does it state who sits on it, or does the city manager determine from time to time who sits on that?
We have a regular schedule to do pre-applications for subdivisions and other utility extensions that require the city manager to present to the commission.
Right, but I'm asking about the membership. Who
The
determines
membership
that?
is stated as those specific department heads.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Sarah, are you done?
Thank you.
Warren?
Would you like to hear from me?
Oh, sure, yes, please. Usually they come up first, so
Well, I know that I need it to. Calvin Hoover, do I need to sign here?
yes.
Yes, I think from building the house that we have there at 220 Montana Street, we made specific efforts to make sure it would not be higher, to constrict any more view than possible, because Kathy's dad, my wife Catherine, her dad, Elton Miller, and James still on the title for those other lots. Bought that land about 45 years ago, and it had been basically pasture land for his horses. And so Michael Miller, Kathy's brother, built a house on Montana and C maybe 15 years ago or so, and we built the one on Montana and D 12 years ago. It was specific effort to keep it low, because I felt bad for the neighbors, honestly. And so if the street were vacated, it would give room for possibly a lot for a house. But if a house were put there, it would definitely have to be low enough that it would not be a view restriction. Beyond that, we would like, as I put in the request, we would like to look at future developing some of those lots, and that we may not even be able to put a house there, but in the development of some of those lots below there, they would have to come off of B Street. I've talking with Jonathan Foote, architect that some of you may be familiar with, about that as well as Staley Engineering, as I have in the request. So it's kind of combined with that. I can't guarantee that we would put a house in that space, but that our son, that's a possibility. We could get get a house there. There's sewer issues and all kinds of things to put a house there. And of course, developing those lots below there, there's all kinds of sewer issues and all of that. Could be very costly, but one of the first initial steps, and Jonathan Foote said, we'll get that street vacated first, and we can look at some other options. So anything that's done will be totally transparent and a definite plus for the city. So it's just I wouldn't want to do anything to disturb the neighbors. I guarantee you that. So, thank you.
I did walk that property today. Well, Jim, what's the width of the street there, including the easements?
The total right of way is 66 feet.
66 feet. Good to remember. I bring up the point that Mike did as well, as far as the view shed as well. And we have a similar situation on 10th, I believe, North 10th. Very similar. I mean, I understand the applicant would do things right. I love the place that he built and where it's at now. But that doesn't mean somebody down the road could, that it couldn't be sold without it being developed and stuff like that. And also on developing those lots, D Street might be advantageous as well to a certain point. Absolutely not all the way down the hill, as well as accessing the east. So those are just two things that came to mind when I was up there. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So I feel like this is one of those examples that I don't have enough information. I want to know more on, master plan, making sure that we're not missing something when it comes to access for trails or in particular trails. So I feel like it's just like in our other situations that we're at a place where more information would help us to make sure that we have, I think some of the descriptions that you gave us, Michael, really help, with this already having the bottom half or part of it being vacated already. I guess I'd like to see the big picture more to move forward on it. And I'm requesting that we table it until it is brought to the Parks and Trails, as well as then we could get more detail on every plot of land. So Michael, I guess that's what I'm requesting, is really understanding like everything like lined out. Who owns what does the easement say to the ditch? Is there anything just that we're missing at this time?
Where are you looking for ownership?
That's
Like the properties to the left of the map, right there, at the top of there, just for thinking ahead for trails or street uses, because when you get rid of part of something, then you prevent using another part of something, but potentially. So understanding the whole layout of this area, and I could, do that with looking through it with you at some point, and looking at Google Map or describing like ditch access, things like that, or understanding that in more detail. Because like you brought up with the North 10th request, there is potential for working with multiple people to get there. We have to work with Northwest Energy. We have to work with the Ditch Association. I mean, it's going to be a long process, but also landowners, city, county properties, all impacting potential or a want for a group of people. So I don't want to miss any of those things before we make a decision. So I'm requesting that we table it at this time for just further review. It doesn't mean that we're not looking at it honestly and sincerely, because I think we really do. It comes to vacating properties, or city properties or right of ways. So, okay, so it was 7:14. All right. Okay, do I have a motion to table action item C for further information and more time to look at? Let me just take a motion to get further information on the properties around the vacation, to request that the Parks and Trails Committee look at it in regards to the master plan, and which one am I missing? Anything else? Okay. So we have a motion by Holden and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sanford, 4, Commissioner Levy,
4.
Motion passes. Thank you. So nice job, everyone, working through a lot of work tonight, important work. And getting it done in pretty efficient time. So Mr. Curtis, it is city manager time.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. Just honored how well we've done tonight. The only big thing is, and I mentioned this in the budget meeting, but I want to mention it so it's on the public record, is the Summerfest that we will host this year will be the last Summerfest that the city hosts. So we'll be looking at turning that over to the organization that's interested, or this will be the last annual Summerfest for the city. So with that, I will do my comments.
Sarah?
I wish everybody a safe 4th of July. And looking forward to go to the Sandra, get all my family coming in a couple of weeks. So be good to have this time off. So thanks for a good meeting.
And since I have nothing to say, that means you don't either. So.
I have two. Street sweeper update, please. Mr. Curtis.
What do you got in street sweeper, Shannon? How we doing?
We're limping it through, and we were able to go back and sweep all the streets that we missed when it broke down initially. So we did a good job of getting something to the enterprise on a public notice and using our Facebook page. And
I thought I heard it today.
yeah, it was out.
It's not good.
Okay.
So then I did get an email on when will we start to enforce. And now that we're getting closer, do we have a better timeline as to when ticketing will happen for the street sweeper?
Some ticketing's already happening. It'll just be sporadic until we can get that full-time officer. Even then, it's gonna be sporadic. Obviously, we're not gonna follow the streets with 12 officers. But tickets are already going out, they'll continue to go out. They'll probably pick up once we have the officer on full time. So we're looking to hire in July, he's going to be academy after that, so probably, yeah, maybe this season, I guess, on full time. But we'll continue to try and enforce that with the officers we do have, as much as we can.
Especially for these problem areas and stuff. It's,
When no one's moving.
yeah, where it's just,
And then, last question. Do we have a timeline on completion of, or a guesstimate at this point on completion of calendar for the parade? I know I saw the map come out from the chamber, the options for the parade. And so people are asking, well, what's gonna happen? Where is it gonna go?
They can predict the rain, we have a better idea. Obviously, they're falling behind a little bit because of the rain. If it lets up, we may finish, but I think it's probably pretty close right now.
So that's all I have. Wait for July. So do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The Livingston City Commission meeting ends at 8:23. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, what do you know?